All right, it's 1 o'clock. Welcome. I want to welcome everyone to the new CAE Point of Contact Onboarding Process Workshop. My name is Kohnke, and I'm from the University of Detroit Mercy. I'd like to introduce everyone who has been involved in this initiative to bring you today's workshop. And I'd like to start with Yair Levy from Southeastern University. It is absolutely astonishing how much work Yair contributes to the CAE community. He is involved in numerous committees, working groups. He serves as a mentor, peer reviewer, you name it. And I want to thank you, Yair, for asking me to join you in co-chairing the CAE in Cyber Defense Community of Practice. It has been absolutely wonderful to work with you over the years. We have, additionally, we have 3 individuals from the Program Management Office who keep us in line. First up is Lori Pfannenstein, and she is the Cybersecurity Program Manager. We have Karen Leuschner, who is the Cyber Defense Program Manager, and Annie Becker, the Deputy Cyber Defense Program Manager. And I would like to also introduce the co-chairs of this initiative, who will all be presenting sections in this workshop with me. First up is Faisal Kaleem, Metropolitan State University. He'll be managing the slides. Thank you, Faisal. We have Eric Berkowitz from College of Lake County and Anthony Pinto from the University of West Florida. So first off, I'd like to draw your attention to the links at the bottom of the screen. The first link is the Community of Practice website, where you'll find all the latest information on the ongoing initiatives and how to join us. And again, this is another thing Yair does. He does a great job of keeping this page up to date. All right, the second link I'd like to draw your attention to is the CAE Community YouTube channel, where you can find all the latest videos, or a lot of videos, from our first initiative called the Know Your Fellow CAEs. And so each month, this is another initiative that we have. We have a monthly meeting where we have schools, CAE schools, several of them present, so that we can learn all about them and, of course, get to know them. The recording of today's event will be uploaded there as well. So go ahead and forward. So the agenda for today is jam-packed with information that we hope will be beneficial to you. So after I make a few introductory comments, Faisal Kaleem will be presenting on the CAE redesignation process. Eric Berkowitz will be presenting on the collaboration and activities from the perspective of 2-year and 4-year schools. And Anthony Pinto will be presenting on reviewing, mentoring, and engaging with the CAE community. After that, I'll follow up with some several helpful resource links and contact information. You can go ahead. Thank you. All right, so the mission, let's start at the beginning, if we can start at the beginning. The Community of Practice in Cyber Defense mission. It's to collaborate with both the CAE community and the Program Management Office in order to gather and share input from the broader community, as well as to provide continuous program improvement. This is what we are doing. We've got lots of initiatives in order to do that very mission, to serve that mission. So what is this initiative and who should attend this meeting? Well, all right, moving right along. As you can see, there is the group email for the Program Management Office. It is caepmo@nsa.gov, and this is a composite email. So there's several individuals that are on that email that are monitoring it. The CAE community is organized into several national centers. The first one, simply called the CAE community, has very informative information. They have a very informative website that you can find information on things like the regional hubs, initiatives, and communities of practice. This is a site in which you will need to register so that you can log in to build a user profile. This will allow you to subscribe to the weekly digest to keep up with the news in the community, events, and faculty opportunities. The second national center is the CAE candidate program led by Whatcom Community College. This is the entry point for all colleges and universities that plan to apply for either academic validation or the CAE-C designation. This effort is led by Kaleem Sandy. All right, so the current, we have over 300 institutions who have been designated as CAEs in cyber defense, over 80 institutions who have been designated as a CAE in research, and over 20 institutions who have been designated as a CAE in cyber operations. All schools are listed on the CAE institution map, and you can also find additional information such as a document library on the Department of Defense Cyber Exchange website. The library includes very helpful information such as program guidance docs, current knowledge units, application checklists, and more. You may want to check that site out as well. Go ahead. It is critical that you keep your school information current. This includes your school's leadership contact information, not just the points of contact. If the program management office cannot reach the point of contact, they will escalate up the chain to the president of the school. And unfortunately, there have been cases where the president has died and no one has informed the program management office. So you need to ensure that you are receiving notifications, and when you do, make sure to reply promptly. Also, make sure you have access to the new software application tool where you will be completing the program of study and CAE designation applications. You will also use the same software application tool to submit your annual reports. You can go ahead. And I would now like to turn the presentation over to Faisal Kaleem, who will be discussing the CAE redesignation process. But before we do, I think Peng Jang, you had a question? Your hand was up? All right, maybe not. All right, we'll move on. We can answer questions at the end. Go ahead, Faisal.
Thanks, Anne. All right, so I will be discussing about the various resources that you're gonna find useful when it comes to designation and redesignation. So let's get started with the very popular, famous, and important website by the name EnSite. You must familiarize yourself with that one-stop CAE designation, redesignation resource. The EnSite website has many useful resources, but today we will focus on the CAE-C designation, redesignation resource. The CAE-C designation resource portal has almost everything you need for your institution to get designated or redesignated. Whether you are a CD institution or a CO or a research institution, or if you are mentoring or reviewing or advising, you will find many useful resources right over here. All right, so let's talk about a very important item in the designation redesignation process, which is the CAE program submission schedule. As you know, to become a CAE-C institution, one must complete a two-step process: the program of study, or commonly known as POS validation, and the CAE designation. A timeline on this calendar shows the two cycles. On the left-hand side, we actually have a POS cycle, and on the right-hand side, you actually have a CAE designation cycle. Your institution must strictly follow the schedule based on the cycle that was provided to them. Let's take a look at third column, application due. The date, this is the date when the institution must submit a completed application for pre-submission review, or commonly known as PSR. Note that partial application will not be forwarded to for PSR. The PSR is required before there will be a full peer review for the POS validation and the CAE designation application. The fourth column is basically the PSR feedback deadline. This is the date the pre-submission reviewer will provide the institution their feedback. Final submission should incorporate the PSR feedback and must be done on or before the deadline, which is mentioned on the final column. As an example, let's take a look at cycle number 10. This is the POS cycle. As you can see, the application deadline is June 15, 2022. Pre-submission review feedback will be provided in 15 days or 2 weeks by 30th of June. And then the institution, after incorporating all the feedback, must submit their final application by July 15 of 2022. Similar example can be seen for the CAE cycle. In this example, as you can see, the application due is on the 15th of December. The pre-submission review feedback is 30th December. And finally, the final submission must happen by 15th of January of 2023. Don't forget, academic institutions holding any CAE-C designation must formally renew their POS validation and CE designation every 5 years. All right, 2 good resources to get any of your question answered about the application processes are the CAE-C designation workshop requirement document. This actually can answer many of the questions about the application process and so on, and you can download this application document from the NSIDE website in a while. The link will be available as well. And then the second resource is the CAE-C designation workshop video, which is created by our very own Korean senders. I'm not sure if Korean is here or not. So these are the 2 very important resources. Other resources that are available to assist in your application include the CAE preparation starting guide. This is basically based on some of the recommended best practices that one of the pilot institution compiled together to assist in your application. They also provided some sort of file structure template in a zip format that you can actually download and kind of like, it assists you in kind of putting your application in order. The very important template for the KU alignment summary, which is basically something like this. You probably have seen this thing before. And finally, the website also hosts the CAE-CD KU alignment matrix, which basically is something like this. You probably have seen this thing as well, which provide all the information about the KUs and so on. All right, the 2 additional sites that I want to mention quickly that also provide resources for the CAE-C includes the DoD Cyber Exchange public site that hosts all the CAE document library. This is also the website from where you typically download the DoD CYSP application documents and so on. Secondly, the CAE community website from where you can download the various CE/C checklist documents and so on. The next thing which I want to quickly mention are the 8 steps application process as documented in the CAE-C designation requirement document. Obviously, we're not going to go through all these application steps over here because these are very well documented. You just need to take a look at that document or maybe watch the video, which I'm going to quickly talk about. As a reminder, the process is tentatively 12 to 14 weeks, and the same timeline applies towards both application for the POS validation and CAE-C designation. Whatcom College provides more granular process for your POS and CAE application in their workshop video. Okay, so the video basically is available on the website as well. Next is basically the application submission tool that we're going to quickly talk about. So if you recall, this was our old portal where we used to submit our application. If you try to go over there, you probably would end up getting the certificate warning if you don't have a certificate installed, or if you don't have a correct certificate installed, or you will basically simply get a blank page. But now we're going to talk about quickly the new website that is basically initially hosted by Whatcom, but now it's hosted on the new nsa-ncae.com portal. There is a quick overview video about using the tool, just a 7.5-minute video that will describe how to use the tool and how you submit your application. So you may want to watch this video if you are still not familiar with the tool. Uh, it's very important to take a look at the tool in detail. So the very first thing you're going to see when you log into the tool, you will see various menus on the left hand side and on the top. And yes, this will be the site that you are going to be using to submit your annual reports as well. All right, and then the most important thing is the user information. It is very, very important to keep all the information up to date. That includes the institution details, institution presidents, and as Ann said, we are talking about live president, not dead presidents. And obviously your ARC, SAM registration information as well. So this is very, very important that you should keep this information up to date so the PMO can contact you, if they need to contact you. Let's quickly talk about the user information as well. Okay, so there are two types of user. The first one is what we call the institution user access manager. This is the user that will be responsible for approving all the other users' accounts in the institution. Then, we have the institution's POC and the alternate POC. These are the folks, who needs to create their account but needed to be approved by the user access manager. And then obviously you also have a CAE institution user that could be a point of contact for the CAE-C. Note something very important over here. It is possible, and as you can see in this case, which is my institution, that a user could be the institutional access manager. The same user could be the the POC for the POS validation and the POC for the CAE as well. So again, in this particular example, myself is basically, I'm wearing multiple hats over here. And then my colleague Khalid, he is basically the alternate POC. All right, as a reminder, here are the 4 requirements and respective sub-requirements for the POS validation. Again, we are not gonna go through this. The purpose is to just make sure that we summarize everything in this one video so that you can refer back and see, what are the processes and so on, and what documents are needed for you to go into the details. So again, POS curriculum, the student section, the faculty members, and the continuous improvement section. These are the 4 requirements and sub-requirements for getting your POS validated. All right, these are the 10 requirements for the CAE designation. As you can clearly see from accreditation all the way down to transfer of credit, articulation, and agreement. Let's also quickly talk about the post-designation process. What happens is after you get designated, you are very happy, and in all that happiness, you probably will forget about the post-designation requirement. So it is very important that we actually mention these post-designation requirements right over here so that you don't have no excuse that, oh, I did not read the document, I did not know about it. Now we are recording this thing so you know that there happens to be a post-designation requirement that you need to fulfill in order to keep your designation. All right, so once again, all CAE-C designation must submit their annual reports, of institutions, institutional metrics on or before the due date established by the NSA PMO. There is a continual need for specific metric elements associated with the institution's performance. Items such as number of students, number of graduates, and other metrics elements are used by the PMO to document program effectiveness with a wide constituency. It is the role of the POC and other institutional staff overseeing the CA designation to ensure that the information about the institution, the POC, the dean, the live presidents, along with all other relevant designation information is updated on a regular basis. It is also the role of the, at regular academic intervals, selected program level learning outcomes should be assessed by analysis of student work to demonstrate whether attainment of defined level of performance is being achieved or not. And by the way, whatever I'm reading right now is coming right from that document, the designation document. So again, that document should be handy. As a normal part of the continuous improvement process, one or more steps should be initiated to improve the program learning outcome over time. The changes will be evaluated by the academic institution at a future assessment period. So again, these are some of the very important, designation requirement. Also, we need to make sure that, these are some of the, again, more recommended actions to keep your designation. So again, focus on continuous improvement, regularly conduct the program's advisory board meeting and maintaining minutes because they're going to ask you to provide those minutes to them. Integrate cybersecurity contents into program other than the POS, integration with the other colleges, outreach to other institutions and help them with their cyber needs, invest in cyber competition, and playing an active role. This is important. Playing an active role in the CAE community by joining various communities, becoming mentor, reviewer, attending meetings, attending presentation, doing presentation. We just want to make sure that Yair has some happy time. We don't want to burden his shoulders. He already has so much going on his plate. So as some of us as well. So we need to really make sure that you guys, provide some sort of community services to the cyber community or to the CAE community. All right, on the same website, on the CAE website, they actually maintains a calendar for the various events that you can attend and participate in. So if you say that, hey, I was not notified about certain event, here is another example that you can always go on the CAE-C calendar and take a look at the various events that are happening. And I know Tony Coulson and his team do a good job in maintaining the calendar on top of providing the door prizes at the various events. All right, the next thing is that we need to make sure that you are aware of and access to the following items, okay, which basically includes the institution's accreditation reports, IT security plans, awareness trainings, documentation, because once again, these are the items that you need to be providing or you need to provide when it comes to designation or redesignation process. Become friends with the institution accreditation officer, CISO, CIO. Honestly, that's gonna really help you in getting all those documents, in time. Establish a center. This is very, very important, okay? Whether you have a physical center or you have a, a virtual center, you must establish it and must keep it up to date. As you know that the cyber content, could become obsolete very, very quickly. So you must keep it up to date, and don't forget, the center must be hosted as part of the institution domain, okay? Engage with your respective regional hub. Okay, that's another important thing that what you need to keep in mind. By the way, these are some of the guidelines regarding the center, and whatever we talk about, whatever I just mentioned, they are basically listed on these in the bullet points right over here. So again, make sure that your center is up to date, and then you will keep it up to date for the duration of the 5 years of your designation. We don't want you to just get redesignated or designated and then forget about the center. And then after 5 years, when the time comes, then you are only updating the center. So please keep the center up to date. And here you go. This is basically your map of the regional hub. You should be aware of which regional hub your institution belongs to. So for example, Metro State is part of the Midwest region, and the regional hub is Moraine Valley Community College in Illinois. All right, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to present on the issue of collaboration with other schools. And my biggest point, which I'm going to bring on throughout this, is you've heard a lot here about Yair. I know that Ann mentioned all the things he's done. We could go on a scavenger hunt if we wanted to go through the entire CAE project and find something in which he isn't involved and offer a prize. So that might be something. But you've also heard the name Corinne. And one of the things I mentioned that is because Yair is from a 4-year PhD granting institution, and Corrine is from a 2-year institution. Both of them do a tremendous amount for. But one of the things that I notice is that 4-year schools and 2-year schools use the same words, and they don't mean the same thing. And particularly when mentors are assigned or when we write up the documentation, the instructions are interpreted very differently. And particularly when new schools are going through the designation process, they see and interpret their obligations very differently. And they form an idea of what they need to do through a very different lens, particularly when it comes to things like collaboration and research and publishing and all those things that really mean something completely differently. They even see curricula very differently. Their mandates and how they answer their whole hierarchy of authority is very, very, very different. So I wanted to go through that here. When for 4-year schools, collaboration is very often in joint research proposals. If you're from a 4-year school, if you submit no one wants a research proposal from a singular PI. You need to have it. You need to show that there's institutional backing from multiple institutions, from multiple researchers. You want to show a history of publishing in peer-reviewed journals and whatever. For 2-year schools, often their research is in curricular development and research development for the educational mission itself. This is all good. The CAE community wants you, and I mean, I give this pep talk. We're all academics and we all fall into the trap of quoting ourselves. But the mission here is not to clone institutions across the United States, but to help you become the best you. So if you're a 2-year institution, it is to maximize you as the 2-year institution in curricular development and resource development, not to turn you and not to ask you to become a 4-year school and engage in theoretical research in cybersecurity. You don't need to do that. That isn't what is being asked of you, even if sometimes the vernacular of the looks like that's what's being asked, which is sometimes I get those kinds of questions. If that's not what you're doing, that isn't what's being asked of you. Nothing in the mandates is asking you to do what is not doing and what isn't in the nature of the type of institution that you are. Now, for both of the types of institutions, jobs, the point here is not, and I mean, even the PMO, because the point here isn't to create grand thinkers. I mean, this is workforce development. Job fairs is where it's at every level. We're trying to enhance the cybersecurity posture of the country, the cybersecurity workforce of the country. So job fairs is the ultimate test. Are employers at all levels, government, private, industry, are they interested in your graduates? So at every level, can you host job fairs? Does your institution and its program interest employers? And can you host Can you host job fairs where your students are interested in employment and employers are interested in your students? Also, you don't always have to think in spectacular terms. One of the things is, I don't know, again, I'm bringing in things, one of the fascinating things way back when, going back historically in my own career, one of the things when you're profiling someone who's going to work in security is that person has to have the disposition for the fact that nobody knows your name until you fail. Most people who work in security toil in anonymity for the entirety of their career. You don't get to have some grand accomplishment, and unless you actually mess up, you're going to finish your career anonymously. You don't have to think in grand terms, your small job fair, whatever it is, on the scale of your institution. We don't all teach at Oxford. And so you can meet the criteria where it's at for your own institution. That's what's being asked. Not to diminish anybody's institution, but we are where we are. So I just want to give everyone, because I find that often when people see these criteria at some point, there's a level of anxiety. And then I sit there as a mentor and I walk people through and I say, okay, let's not walk through the criteria. Let's walk through what you do. And then I start ticking off boxes as the mentee talks about what he or she is already doing. Say there, met. Okay, that's it. You just need to change this a little bit. Met. And it all suddenly starts, the pieces start falling together, because they start, when they read the criteria, they start thinking on to scale that is too grand. I can move to the next slide. The CAE symposia. Okay. There's that slide from Cheers, that all too often used phrase where everybody knows your name. That needs to be changed. I walked into class at the beginning of the semester and I looked at my students and I told them they all look like Smurfs. Why? Because they all had those blue faces of those masks that we all throw away too often. So really, it looked like a classroom of Smurfs. We're all blue. My point being now, it's not a matter of knowing everybody's name. I'd like to live in a world where everybody knows your face. I want to see faces again. People need to know your face. And Faisal was saying that, and before him, you have to know your face. You have to know people's faces. Faisal was saying that you have to know the people in your institution to get things done. I got the CAE application done in a minimum of time because I wore out the stairwells at my institution. Didn't send a single email to anybody. I barged into their office. Not only did they know my face, they dreaded it, because they knew that if they didn't get me what I wanted, I was coming back tomorrow in their office. But also, if the CAE community, everybody should know your face. You have to come to the annual CAE symposia, because that's where you're going to come and talk to people and you're going to find out what they're doing. Because if you find out what they're doing, you're going to learn that you can do it too. And then you're going to realize, oh my God, it isn't scary. We can all do this. Or you're going to learn that I can, to use another tired word, pivot slightly and do something slightly different than what I'm doing, and I can meet the criteria, or I can serve my students better with something that I didn't think of. And you have to come to these meetings because it's a have to that you're going to be thankful that you did. You're going to thank me tomorrow, kind of thing. And you have to become part of this community. And I know that everybody here, this community is growing and everybody's here trying to keep it functioning, because that is the whole point of this. And as the 2-year community is in here, the 4-year community is in here, representatives of government cybersecurity are in here, representatives of private cybersecurity are in here, you won't realize what you're missing till you walk away from one of these symposia and realize all of the things that you never thought of. If what you're doing is teaching your students, you're missing out on too much. Now, from the 2-year school and the 4-year school, you're going to learn so much vocabulary and so much of what's going on. You're going to realize again that each of these worlds is very different than the other, and you need to hear what's going on. Another thing, if you're in a 2-year school that is also feeding into the 4-year school, it's important to hear what's going on in the 4-year schools because it really is a different world. If I can move on to the next slide. The Tech Talks. This is yet one more opportunity to see what's going on and to listen to see what other people are talking about. It's also another place to meet your obligation for collaboration in a friendly environment, particularly the people from 4-year schools, and you go to conferences, and we've all been at the friendly ones and the unfriendly ones. The friendly ones where it's all fine and good, and the unfriendly ones where someone's waiting there just for the Q&A to bite you, and you wish you didn't come, and you got to figure out a way to diffuse the question because you don't want to make any adversarial relationships in the crowd, but you're thinking really, really, really. The CAE Tech Talks are something to which you have to acclimate yourself before you think of. It's a great way to meet your obligations as far as collaboration and contributing, but you have to acclimate yourself first. It isn't a conference, it's a tech talk. And if you haven't done it, then you don't know what it is. If you haven't been there, then you don't know what it is. You can't just imagine what it is. So you have to actually attend the tech talks and then decide that now I understand what it is, what the parameters are, what would be expected of me to give one. And then you realize that this is another forum that's appropriate for me. If I'm at a 4-year or a 2-year, I don't need to be doing some grand funded research project. I can just be working on cybersecurity and another avenue of doing something up to date and contributing to the profession and meet my obligations. And suddenly what the CAE community expects of me as a contributing member of the community isn't this overwhelming obligation, particularly again, if I'm from a 2-year school, I'm not expected to do this kind of 4-year funded research that sometimes it sounds like they're talking about. And it is friendly, it is a community atmosphere. If I could move on. Career fairs. This comes back to the fact that this is about national cybersecurity posture. It's about enhancing the cybersecurity workforce of the country. And your school probably has, whether or not you're 2-year or 4-year, an office that deals with these things. But as a highly skilled professional discipline, we have to realize that the dedicated professionals in our career offices can only do so much. And if we ask more of them than they can do, then we're going to mess up. They know how to run a career fair. They probably don't know any more about cybersecurity than they got in that annual training that we scoff at every year as we have to do it as we return in August. And if you're like me, your favorite thing of that training is trying to figure out how to fast forward it to the exam. And every year they get more and more clever at trying to make it so that you can't skip over the videos and fast forward it to the exam. So they don't know anything about cybersecurity because they are trying to get jobs for the entire institutional community. The people in history, the people in psychology, the people in math, and in the business community. So this is, again, they should know your face, and you should say, will you work with me so that you build a career fair and I build relationships with cybersecurity employers so that you make the fair look professional and I make the cyber look professional. You shouldn't be, to my mind, and I've done this at several institutions, you shouldn't be answering the calls about setting up tables and what's needed to set up a table and all that stuff. And they should be forwarding everything that has the word cyber on to you. And if you look like a team and you work like a team, that's exactly what happens on the employer side, where the technology questions go to the technology people and the conference questions go to the conference people. So it doesn't look weird at all from their side. It looks normal. If the conference people start answering technology questions from the employer side, that looks weird. And the best thing to do is to start small with employers, find out where your graduates, some people say, I've never done this before. Find out who's already hired your people. See if you have some small kernel of trust out there in the community if you haven't done this before, and leverage it. And so if there's a recurring theme here, if I've established any kind of rhythm, the recurring theme here is figure out where your kernel of successes and trusts are, and then spread that out over what your obligations are and build on it. Don't try and invent things that will tick the boxes out if they're not real. Take what you're doing out and make it and say that what I'm doing is probably going to fill these boxes, and use what's real and then build upon it everywhere because it probably does tick the boxes. See it through the lens of what you're doing and then expand your institution and help it grow, because that's what this program is supposed to make happen. The people here, the people from the program management office, everyone here who's already been through this process before you, particularly the names you won't stop hearing, like Corinne and Yair, are happy to help. And the minute you start feeling anxiety, that should be a cue to ask a question, not to feel stress. And if I'm not mistaken, this is my last slide. So I'm going to pass the torch back to Faisal or on to Anthony, depending on how they're running the introductions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Next in the line is Anthony Pinto, University of West Florida. Anthony, take it away. Anthony?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it wouldn't let me unmute, so one did it for me. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Anthony Pinto from the University of West Florida in Pensacola. And so basically we're going to talk about first off the reviewer or mentor program. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a reviewer program. So as you probably realize, when you initially put in your application for designation or redesignation, there was a peer reviewer or a group of peer reviewers that reviewed your application and determined how, if there was any issues with it, and if there were, they may have asked. That's basically, those people come from us, from current CAE designated institutions. If you'd like to do that, certainly can. They're offer training. You have to go through the training. You have to understand the requirements, and you could become a CAE-CD application reviewer, and there's a small stipend that goes with that. That's currently run out of the ENMU. If you have interest in that, it's the same website that we've been talking about, the one run by Watcom. And CYTE website. Let them know about that, and if you want to become a reviewer, they can set. Your program is also run by Watcom, and there's 2 phases to that: the program development and the application assistance phase. And once you get to the application assistance phase, you can request, and they should assign you a mentor. One of the issues is the mentors are limited. And so if you'd like to be a mentor, if you have some of those skills, again, you go through some training, you fill out an application for that, and they'll designate you as a mentor. There's a small stipend for that. And basically at that point, you help schools get through the process, you answer their questions, you have to do some paperwork as far as milestone updates and things like that. Slide. Second part of this is you have to have continued engagement. If you remember from your application, that was one of the requirements. So continuing engagement takes a lot of different aspects, right? You can, most regions and each regional hub should have regular meetings that you attend. Like in the Southeast region, we do them through Zoom. I think once COVID gets done, we may actually have some events or meetings where we'll meet face to face, but there's usually initiatives to get involved in related to cyber competitions or grant applications, those types of things. So it's not too difficult to get involved, and each university needs to be involved because this is only as good as people in the community. That everybody involved is from a university. And there's lots of things to get involved in, this committee for one, and all other types of things. Really encourage you to seek that out and look at that and see what you can do. You don't have to spend hours and hours. Nobody's expecting you to be like Yair and commit 40 or 50 hours a week to this, but just a few hours can help if everybody contributes. Much better for everybody else. And there are workshops and other events, and it's on the calendar. So opportunities. Next slide. The next part is cyber competitions. There's lots of those out there. Recently, they just held the global collegiate penetration testing competition in Rochester in January. Actually, our school attended that, one of the 15, but there's regionals for that. Lots of other competitions out there besides the named ones. There's a nice challenge project that's out there that anybody, a CAE school, can use, and we've used this, where they have a virtualized environment, and it's basically based on the NIST structure. So you get to pick kind of which type of challenges you want your students to do, and it doesn't have to be in class. It can be like in the cyber club and stuff like that, and they walk through those challenges and they try different things, and it's not just technical stuff. It's business questions and things like that. So our cyber club uses it. It's pretty well set up. It's a thing to practice. What? There are other, I meant to say there are other competitions too, like the CCDC is running right now, and each region has that. But MITRE has competitions throughout the year as well. So sorry about that, but you can go to the next one. Grants and scholarships. One interesting thing is once you become designated, you have lots more access to grants and funding opportunities. You get lots more emails and opportunities. So you should certainly take advantage of that. Obviously, funding isn't guaranteed, but definitely allowed to apply. The NSF Scholarship for Service is one of the better scholarship type grants. Students, we actually have it here. We got it a couple of years ago. Basically, students can get up to 3 years paid for undergraduate or graduate in the designated program, and they also get a pretty solid stipend. We get some funding for building like the professional development and training, and the only issue is they have to agree to work for the federal government for the number of years that they got their scholarship for. Very good program, very popular. They usually depending on your grant, you get up to 5 or 6 scholarships a year usually. Next slide. There's a similar program that the DoD puts out, which allows basically the same type of thing where you have to work for the DoD, you get your scholarship and a stipend. But the DoD program is more like a draft type program. The students submit their information, resumes and stuff to the program, and then it gets circulated through DoD organizations, and they select which students they want to be in that, and then those are the ones. The scholarship for service, the university decides who they. There's a list of all the websites, the CAE community, again, for engagement. NCYTE for mentorships, peer reviewing, stuff like that, and then the scholarship for service, and then the DoD scholarship. I think that's my last slide, right?
Yep. All right, so let's bring back Anne for closing remarks. Anne?
Oh, all right, go ahead. Yeah, just to wrap up this next slide is another, we tried to put together all the different links that you could go out there. We have 2 repositories that have really, really helpful Cyber Lab curricula. And we have a Clark website. It's called the Cyber Lab Resource Knowledge. And this is Sid Kaza and Blair Taylor. They have done an outstanding job providing a portal that is you'll need to register for that one, and you can download and get all sorts of varying sizes of curricula that you can use. They have really made a great job of making this available free to the whole community. There's also the Cyber Education Resource Directory. CAE-C is Moraine Valley Center. They do a lot of faculty development. I personally have benefited greatly from several workshops that they have put on. This is free to the CAE community. I want to point out Mike Kasani. They're not called e-mates anymore, but they are interactives. And I really recommend going out to the CAE-C.org, the CSSIA interactives. These interactive are tidbits. For instance, I teach computer networking, and when you get into subnetting, a lot of people absolutely just lose it at that point, especially the undergrads. And there is outstanding Subnetting interactives. These are some of the best I have ever seen. So they have a variety of topics out there that Mike, under the leadership of Mike Kazani, has done. I just recommend that one. The National Center of Academic Excellence in Cybersecurity. There's the DoD Scholarship. Gen Cyber, the National K through 12, also has additional excellent information. The NICE Challenge web portal. This has been actually updated, and this has over 100 outstanding real world challenges. These can be used as lab assignments in your classes. The NICE Framework Resource Center is also excellent. If you want to take a look at the tasks, the skills, the knowledge, the competencies now that the NICE framework is putting together or has out there. For the job roles, there's 53 job roles. That's a really good site as well. We've mentioned the NSF Scholarship for Service, the National Cyber League competition, and again, the Insight Center workshops. Those are good for you to start with as far as the Insight, the Whatcom. Just to get started, there's a lot of excellent videos that have been produced to help walk you through the tool, walk you through the process. I attended countless, probably 5 or 6 of them myself, and they've been very, very helpful. All right, and I think the next slide is the very end. This is specific ways to get a hold of the individuals in the program management office. Again, that composite is the CAE PMO. Jason Smith is the cyber operations program manager, in addition to working with, or I should say, joining Lori, Karen, and Annie. And then the Ask CYSP, if you've got questions regarding the Department of Defense Cyber Scholarship Program, Alice Smitely and Emily Vogel keep their eyes on that other composite. All right, and I think that is it. We've had quite a few wonderful, wonderful questions in the chat box, and I am absolutely astounded at how quickly Yair is able to just answer them. Whatever vitamins you take, I'd like that. Faisal's been answering. I see a lot of great answers. So I think if you would like to answer, if you've got questions, you can put them in the chat. Otherwise, I think we'll take questions now. You can unmute. I'm not sure if you have to unmute yourself. Maybe.
Actually, the unmuting feature is not available. Let's ask everyone to put their feedback in the chat, any questions they have. And we can take additional questions at the end. Let's go ahead and close the recording.
You want me to stop the recording right now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Perfect.